All right, welcome everyone. My name is Ashley Nordstrupa, and today we're going to be talking about 5 habits of financially successful lawyers. But before we begin, I just want to pass it over to Megan, who's going to give you some updates, a little announcement, and then we will dive right in.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. As Ashley said, I'm Megan Gabrielson. I'm in part of the Dean of Students office. Just quick notes. I want to say by attending this event, you're earning a wellness credit. So make sure that you log your attendance in the foundations track. And another bonus note, the SBA Wellness Committee and the Dean of Students office is co-sponsoring raffle this week for anybody who attends our Wellness Week events. So each event you attend, you earn a raffle entry. So I'm making notes of everyone who's here tonight. So you'll automatically get entered in that raffle, but come to some more of our events throughout the rest of the week. One side note is make sure your full name is up on your participant list. That way I make sure that I properly credit you. Ashley, I'll hand it back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. And thank you everyone again for joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm very happy to serve as your moderator for today's session. We will be utilizing the chat panel to address any questions. So if you have any questions throughout the session, throw it in the chat panel. I'm going to monitor it throughout the session, and I will pose the questions to Jen, our presenter. We will be leaving the audio muted just so that we can cut back on the background sounds. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you sign up for your Ask Edna account at askedna.accesslex.org. And I threw that in the chat panel. I'll throw it in again for anybody who is just joining us. And I want to introduce Jennifer. She is our Mid-South Regional Director, where she directs and manages all the AccessLex financial education programs and activities at ABA-approved member law schools in Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. I have to look at my notes for that one because I can't remember them all. She is an accredited financial counselor and also a global career development facilitator. She's a fabulous resource. She has spent over 2 decades working with law school students as a student affairs professional and a financial educator. She is a first-gen non-traditional student, and Jennifer has used her experience to assist thousands of aspiring attorneys by empowering them through knowledge, tools, and resources to make informed and sound decisions when it comes to both their legal education, decisions about their professional career, and their personal financial education as well. And she has been just a wealth of information for the whole team. All of us on the team are committed to helping you through your personal financial education. And today, Jen, you ready to start talking about the 5 habits of financially successful lawyers?
I am. Thank you so much, Ashley and Megan. I appreciate it. I am so excited to talk to you all during Wellness Week. It's having my background being in law school administration, actually in student affairs at law schools, I realize how important Wellness Week is and focusing on not only your mental health or your physical health, but your financial health. It is a really important aspect of your overall health. And so today we're going to talk about the 5 habits of financially successful lawyers. But really what I want to do is give you some tools and information that can help you make good decisions. How many of you, and I think I don't know if there's a raise hand icon, but I think there are reaction buttons. Can you raise your hand or put in the chat panel? How many of you have heard of Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? How many are you familiar with it? Yeah, there's the raised icon. Okay, raised hand icon. I couldn't see it from my standpoint. So great. There are a lot of you. So we have adapted that idea to think about what makes attorneys successful. And we're going to talk about that and how you can translate that into financial health. So let's get started. I want to talk to you a little bit about who AccessLex is. If you're new to AccessLex, we are a nonprofit, and we like to say we help students from admissions to admissions. We work in the pre-law space, helping people make financial decisions about going to law school. We have our Max by AccessLex platform for law students, which this is a part of. And we have programs after you graduate. We can help talk to you about student loan repayment and other important ideas. We do all of this through research, advocacy, and programming. And as a nonprofit, we never charge you for programs like this. We have one-on-one coaching that we never charge you for, and we never charge the school for these services. So everything we talk about today is free to you and free to the school. So I want to focus on that. Megan talked about the raffle that you're going to have for your Wellness Week activities. You know, part of Max is we want to encourage you to learn about financial management and personal finance, but we do it in a way that you can earn opportunities for our scholarships. So just by attending today, you'll get an entry into our scholarship drawing. So you're all aspiring attorneys, so I want to do this quick disclaimer, and I'm reading it for purposes of closed captioning. The information provided in Max by AccessLex events and other Max resources is being made available to assist you in developing your personal financial strategy and is not intended as investment, tax, or legal advice. You should consider whether the information is appropriate for your needs, and where applicable, seek advice from an appropriate professional advisor. So Ask Edna, which Ashley spoke about, is our platform where we house our Max by AccessLex platform. Ask Edna is our educational network. And so if you create an account with Ask Edna, you have access to everything. And again, Ask Edna is free. All our resources are free. Anything you do on our website, on our platform, is confidential. We don't sell your information, and we don't have advertising on our platform. So I encourage you to create an account if you haven't already. And if you do have an account, go ahead and log in, because at the end, I'm going to give you instructions on how to get your scholarship entry. So we encourage you to think about this in question, and we want this to be participative. So I want to know from you all, by comments in the chat panel, how do you define financial success? When you think about yourself or someone else, how is financial success indicated? So give me some ideas in the chat panel. And Ash, while we're waiting for people to answer, how do you define financial success? You and I did this program last week. How do you define financial success?
It's a little bit delayed when I go off of mute. So I define financial success at the point where I am debt-free. And so Jen knows I am very debt averse, and I come from a family that did not necessarily make the best debt decisions in their lives. I have an 84-year-old grandmother who still has a very hefty upside down mortgage on her home that was purchased back in the late 60s. So you do the math. That is a very long time. And so for me, I want to be able to say that I don't have any debt payments that I need to worry about, so that every dollar I have, I can do whatever I want with, whether it's invest it, save it, or spend it. And so that's my number one. And I am not there yet. Don't think that I have some secret sauce to tell you. I'm just, chipping away at it every day, and hope that in 10 years, I will be able to get rid of my mortgage. That's the last part that I really need to tackle. But we have a few people here, Jen, that have defined it. And I have someone who said stability, not living paycheck to paycheck, which is really, really important. Someone said ability to provide for children's needs and wants stress-free. I have 2 kids. I feel that. Being able to provide for your children so they are able to pursue any opportunities they choose. That's really nice too. What about you, Jen? What's yours?
So I can't take credit for this line. I recently heard it. One of our experts that we refer to a lot, his name is Dr. Brad Klontz. And I was watching a video of his. He specializes in financial psychology. And he used this phrase that I really thought put a good point on it. And it takes into account everything you said, Ashley, and everybody else. It says, being able to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. Having the ability to make those decisions, that you're not, you don't have the debt, You can pay for your children's education. You don't have the stress of living paycheck to paycheck. And I loved how that was phrased, right? And this is not talking about millions upon millions of dollars. It's just being able to have financial flexibility. That's another phrase that we use, right? That, you're not counting every penny, that you are able to make those decisions. So for me, that's what I strive to, and I'm not there yet either, right? I also think it's a continual process, right? When you meet one milestone, you strive for another one. So thank you all so much for sharing. So let's get to those traits that we want to talk about. So what are some of the things that make lawyers good at their jobs? When you think of a lawyer, we've got a couple on here, but I want to hear from you. What's not on this list? Lawyers there are stereotypes when it comes to lawyers, but there are some, no matter what kind of lawyer you are, there are some consistent traits that you can see. So what are some of the other things that are not on this list? Whether it's yourself, somebody you know, or one I like seeing a lot of is thoughtful, compassionate. Those are some of the things that we may not think of automatically, but I like hearing those things. So what do you got, Ash? I see some coming in.
So we have cogent, flexible, organized, good communicators, skilled in reading and writing. I have a cousin who's an attorney, and she knew she wanted to be an attorney from a very, very young age. And I will say that she is always on top of everything. And for me to say that, because Jen knows I'm a big planner, and I also, when I think of lawyers, I also think of the person who's thinking, they're very future thinkers. They're thinking not what the next problem is, but what the second, third, fourth problem might be in front of them. So they're always thinking in advance.
I love that. And Ashley fulfills all of these traits. I can tell you from personal experience: she's detailed, competitive, persistent, strategic, and resilient. So, all right. So thinking about these lawyer traits, right, that help us do our job and why we're good at our job, or why you will be good at your job. What are the habits that we have found that lawyers do that make them financially successful? So let's look at the 5 habits that we're going to talk about today and why they make you financially successful. So some of you, I know we probably have some evening students who've been out of the workforce. I went to school at night, but I still felt, and when I go through these things, I still felt like there were always things that I could learn. So monitoring your financial health, knowing your numbers is really important. Ashley and I talk to students all the time who have never looked at their credit report, or don't know their credit score, who don't know their total student loan amount, or don't look at their numbers. We're going to talk about those, right? So monitoring that financial health, defending the cash flow, understanding how that money flows. Then we're going to talk about systems, the financial systems that you can put in place to help you be financially successful. Of course, as an attorney, you never do things alone. You consult, you use outside counsel. So when should you use outside counsel? What are some of the ideas? Like, we are accredited financial counselors. We're never going to try to sell you a stock or an investment. We're going to coach you, right? And that you can do that for free. But when should you talk to an outside advisor? And then nothing has been more demonstrated over the last year and a half is pivoting when things change. In March 2020, we had 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And here we are in October, still talking about the pandemic. So much has happened in that time period. And we've become masters at pivoting when we needed to, because we had to. We didn't have another choice. So let's move on and start talking about monitoring financial health. And I already said that you want to know your numbers, right? You want to run those financial health markers at least once a year. You want to know where you stand, and we're going to show you how to do that. And then when you're running those markers, where can you improve? What are some of the areas that you want to work in? work on. So we have this financial dashboard that we like to refer to, and I'm gonna show you this throughout the presentation for different parts of the presentation. But this is a really good example of some of the numbers you should be very aware of at any point, okay? There's also other ways to monitor your financial health. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has resources. You could listen to podcasts. You could use apps like Mint or You Need a Budget. There are a ton of programs out there, so you don't have to start from scratch. Every little thing helps you do this, right? And there are the five financial planning elements that are earning, we know, saving and investing, we know, borrowing, protecting, and spending. And those are areas that you want that are all representative in these financial dashboards. So let's start looking at these numbers. Net worth. Who can give me a quick and dirty calculation for net worth? Who wants to do that? What is your net worth? Or how is it calculated? I know we have some accounting majors, tax attorneys in the making.
Awesome. Total assets minus liabilities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's what it is. Your net worth is your total assets minus your total liabilities. And it represents what you owe, what you own minus what you owe. Okay, own versus owe. Okay, and it tells you how much you're worth financially. It obviously doesn't tell you about your personal worth. The next number that you should be aware of is your credit score. Let's see by a show of hands how many of you know your credit score. You do not have to tell me what your credit score is, but let's see how many of you know your credit score. For those of you who are raising a hand, I would love for you to put in the chat panel how you know. I know Ashley and I use our credit cards. Our credit cards tell us. I have Bank of America and Chase. They tell me. My bank app tells me. And I monitor my credit through Experian. So I get my credit score for free through several different methods. I know probably, what do we have, Ashley? What do we have coming through?
We have their all of it. Everyone who's sharing is the bank. Oh, someone put Experian. I also use Experian, Credit Karma.
So for those of you who don't know your credit score, you don't need to pay for your credit score. You can look for resources where you can find it for free. The only thing I always say with the credit score is know which score they are monitoring. So for example, I believe my Chase card monitors a Vantage score, or Experian checks an Experian a Vantage score. There's FICO scores. Those are the most common, but know which ones they're monitoring. They're usually within a couple of points of each other, so it really doesn't matter, but you should also know what your credit score is.
And sometimes I get that'll be like powered by TransUnion. So it's just TransUnion calculating it. So just know where it's coming, like Jen said, know where it's coming from.
Right. So the next habit we really want to focus on is defending the cash flow. And what does that really mean, right? Thinking about that money coming in. Some of you are full-time students. Some of you are going to school part-time, working full-time, but living on less than you earn. You know, one of the things I see from law students almost universally, whether they're at the beginning of their career or at the end of the career or they're going into practice, is that they don't know where their money goes. If they're not budgeting, if they're not thinking about their money, they turn around and they're like, where did all that money go? And right now we live in an invisible money society. I don't know when the last time I had my money hands on cash. Now, Ashley, on the other hand, volunteers for the PTA at our school and had a lot of cash in her hand recently, but that was for a book sale or book fair. I honestly, in my personal life, have no cash ever. I use my debit card for most purchases. I use Venmo, PayPal. I use Google Pay. Some of you probably use Apple Pay, whatever it is, but we don't see our money. So it gets deposited in the account and it goes right out. We don't really think about it. So understanding where that money goes and not living up to your dollars, right? We also have a tendency that Dr. Brad Klontz, who I mentioned, he talks about that financial psychology. He talks about your money scripts, right? And somebody who's always worrying about how the Joneses are doing might fall into that lifestyle creep. You know, with the advent of social media and influencers, you are looking at fake pictures all the time. You know, there's a trend on Instagram versus reality, but even sometimes when I see the reality pictures, it's not reality. It's not my reality, at least. So we worry and we compare ourselves constantly, and there's a psychology about it. We also want you to be aware of taking on debt. It's not that debt is necessarily bad, but understand where it comes from and be conscious of it and make conscious decisions. Now, for some of you, probably couldn't go to law school unless you took debt out. But thinking about other things that you go into debt for, a new car or credit card debt, understand the impact that debt has on you. And then for most of you, you'll graduate, or if you're a part-time student, you have one income stream. You want to look at ways that you can diversify your income stream so you have a sense of security. You have your paycheck, maybe you have investments, maybe you have rental income. Now, I will tell you, and I don't know what it is about DC, but I talk to students in law school all the time who are in DC who are buying and selling properties, who want to buy and sell properties. And, you know, becoming a real estate mogul is a way to diversify your income. So people are buying and selling. I would have never been at that level when I was in law school, but it seems very common in the DC area. So it's just something to think about, different ways that you can diversify your income. But why is this important? So now let's go back and thinking about the savings rate that we have, right? Why is that important? So anybody have any clue or any idea how you calculate your savings rate? And it's a really easy formula. So I'm just going to tell you basically how much money you put into savings, and that can include your investments, and you just divide it by your monthly income. And that tells you how much of that monthly income is going into savings. There's a budgeting method called 50-30-20. And I always talk about this because just because this method is called 50-30-20, you don't necessarily have to have this budget. So 50% of your income goes to your needs, right? Your rent or your mortgage, your food, all of those things. 30% goes to those things you want. You don't necessarily need, but you want, and 20% goes to savings. That's an easy way to figure out your savings rate. But those ratios, you could do 40, 40, and 20. I had to think fast as I did that math in my head. So really thinking about at least 20% savings rate. Again, that includes your 401k or your retirement, trying to get that monthly income and that savings in whatever method you want to at least 20%. And we often talk about, you know, one of the questions we always get with this is, does that include emergency fund? You want at least 5% of that going into an emergency fund. If you can put more in, that's fine. And, you know, we get the question about emergency fund, how much is enough? Well, there's no right answer for that. As you know, the law school answer is it depends. But really you want to think about, what are you comfortable with? You know, the old traditional saying is 3 to 6 months of your expenses, but you might want more than that, or you may want just a flat number in your checking account that you are not going to touch, that makes you feel safe. And that is really important to you. Okay. I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions, Ash.
No questions. Sorry, it's been really delayed when I try to go off.
Okay, great. All right, so what does it mean to be debt sensitive? And that was one of the things we talked about, right? So debt sensitive, as I said, means paying attention to how much you're borrowing. And you really want to think about your debt to income ratio. When lenders evaluate your application for borrowing, they are going to look at how much debt to income you have. The ideal debt to income ratio, or the preferred debt to income ratio, is having your debt at least below 36%, your total debt, right? If you're looking at a mortgage, they want your housing debt, what you pay on your rent or a mortgage, to be less than 28%. So if you're thinking about, an application, they're going to look at that and say, how much of their monthly income is going towards debt payments? And that includes, when they're looking at that overall debt to income ratio, they're going to look at your credit card, your consumer debt, your installment loans, all of that, right?
Hey,
So
Jen.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were pausing.
No.
Would you mind going over the 50, 30, 20 again? Thank you.
Absolutely. That's a great question. So one of the budgeting methods that people often talk about, there are tons of budgeting methods, and I may even get to it a little later if we have time. There are tons of budgeting methods out there. Some people don't like to itemize. They like to make things easy. So when you do a 50, 30, 20, it's just saying, so I'll make it easy because I'm not going to be able to do math quickly in my head. Say your monthly income is $1,000. 500 of that should go towards your needs, your rent or your housing or your food, your clothing, the things that you absolutely have to buy. $300 of that can go towards other things you want, your gym membership, your Starbucks, the other things you want to pay for. And then at least 20% should go towards savings, okay? Now, I'm a big believer that this ratio is not hard and fast because your needs could be less than 50% and you may want to save more. So it's just a way to kind of say, okay, this is the money coming in. I'm going to put this percentage to one area, this percentage to another area, and this percentage to another area. And it makes it easier to, budget. Some people, like I said, don't like to itemize. So hopefully that answers the question. Would you add anything to that, Ash?
I don't think so. I think it's newer to people just because I feel like it's just starting to get some popularity. I'm seeing it now from like financial expert influencers on Instagram and stuff, but you can determine what percentages you want as long as they just kind of have that three groupings.
Right. And I think the first step to any budget is really thinking about what your needs are, determining what you have to spend that first number on, and then you can play with the percentages. So then there's debt management. Another thing you have to think about for being debt sensitive. Thinking about your student loans, you may have to use income-driven repayment to give you a little more financial flexibility. They're lower payments over a longer period of time, but it allows you to use funds that might have otherwise gone to your student loans. If you want to accelerate payoff, or you're working in big law, you may use the 10-year standard plan. You could even accelerate it quicker than that, pay it off faster. Some of you may be doing public service and you want to work towards public service loan forgiveness. We have webinars on loan repayment and public service loan forgiveness if you want. Usually in the spring, Chris Pollard invites me to do Road to Zero, which is our loan repayment. So you can either sign up for the webinar through Ask Edna, or you can just wait till the spring because we do it every year for GW students. Then there's consumer debt, right? There are a couple of different ways to pay down your consumer debt. There's Snowball and Avalanche, right? Snowball lists the debts from smallest to largest, or highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. Some people like to have that sense of accomplishment. So you might have 3 credit cards One is really high, but it's got a low interest rate, and one is maybe a small amount. You pay off that small amount first, and you get that sense of accomplishment that you've paid something off, and then you put that money that you were putting on that credit card to the next one, the next largest one. Or you pay down the one with the highest interest rate first. That's going to make the biggest debt or difference overall. If you pay the highest interest rates down the most for any extra money you have, so you want to do that, but you may not see the accomplishment as quickly, right? And any consumer debt you have, you want to keep it under 20% of your take-home pay. Then again, we talked about the housing debt, keep that under 28%, and then all your debt, everything you owe, under 36%. The third habit is financial systems. One of the things we always encourage students to do is set financial goals. Remember, I asked you at the very beginning, what does financial success mean to you? So starting to think about those goals, whether you want to pay for your children's education, maybe you want to travel around the world, maybe you want to retire when you're 40, setting up those goals and then working backwards to build the systems that help you get there, okay? And they could be lots of different systems, and we'll talk about them in a moment, but they don't have to be these big creative things. They just have to work for you. It's as simple as having your payments automated, or having a certain amount come out of your paycheck for your retirement plan. There's this great quote by James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits. We don't rise to the level of goals, we fall to the levels of our systems. Basically what that means is the system is the thing that helps us get to our goals. So it's a really good way of thinking. If we don't have these systems in place, we're never going to get to the goals. I like to liken it to, an athletic team or a musician. You didn't have music, if you didn't practice, if you didn't have a playbook, you're never really going to be able to win that championship or win that coveted fellowship without having systems in place. So what kinds of systems are there? Earnings, risk management, spending, investing. There's a lot of things that you can do, but it may seem overwhelming, and I know a lot of this information may seem overwhelming. There are a lot of different things that you can be doing to start doing this. As a law student, if you're going to school full-time and you don't have any earning systems, you really don't have a lot to do there, but maybe there's risk management systems that you can put into place. Or maybe you're working full-time and going to school part-time and you can start thinking about the investing, and everybody can put in spending systems in place because we all spend. That's the one common denominator. So what are some earning systems? It's as simple as planning for promotion. Some of you may be on the partner track, understanding the salary trajectory of jobs. Effective tax management is actually understanding how you can take advantage, not in a negative way or not in an illegal way, of any tax rebates or benefits that you can take advantage of. And that's work. You may do it yourself or working with a tax professional that can really help you. I was talking to a student earlier who asked me about student loan repayment. And one of the options when you're in an income-driven repayment plan is, depending on if you file jointly or separately with your spouse, will determine how your income-driven repayment is calculated. So, that is something that you want to take into account if you're married or planning to get married. But it's not the only thing. Just because your spouse's income and your spouse's debt may come into account, there may be other benefits of filing jointly that outweigh the benefits or the negativity from your loan repayment. So it's really good to have a tax professional helping you. Ashley talks about her tax professional she's known all her life, who really helps them take advantage of everything that's available to them. And networking, understanding the legal employment situation and understanding who can help you and where you can benefit by understanding, the opportunities in the field that you're practicing, or the practice type that you have. I'm going to stop right there because I need to take a breath. See, Ash, if there are any questions that have come in.
No questions so far since the last one, but I do encourage you, ask away. We have Jennifer's undivided attention for the next however many minutes.
25 minutes. So risk management is just what it sounds. Trying to reduce the risk that you have by having an emergency fund. We talked a little bit about that. What is comfortable for you in an emergency fund? Having an insurance portfolio, that may be homeowners, that may be renters, that's health insurance. I always include pet insurance in this because I'm a big pet lover. Car insurance, life insurance. What is your insurance portfolio that can reduce the risk of catastrophic financial situations? Checking your credit report. Again, over a year ago, I was a victim of credit fraud. And because I was monitoring it, I was able to find it and put an end to it. And then there's the debt snowball, paying down that debt to reduce it to as little as possible. That debt management is really important. I'll mention emergency fund again. You really want to remember that you need to pay yourself first, that you want to take an opportunity to give yourself a cushion. It may be hard to think about that now, but start with a small amount and start adding to it, and then promise yourself that you're not going to touch it unless you have an emergency. So we've talked about some of this. We've spent some time on the 50-30-20 plan, but spending systems are really understanding where your money is going. I always like to say, give every dollar a job. And that doesn't mean that it has to go to a certain thing, because savings is a job, investing is a job, but really understanding where your money is spent. Because we live in this invisible financial world, we don't really pay attention to where our money is going. And student I was literally talking to beforehand is somebody I'm working with on budgeting, and she has never budgeted before. So her task from the last call we talked on to this call was to go through a month of spending and categorize all her expenses. And she said to me, and again, this is something we hear all the time, she's like, I didn't realize I spent so much money on Amazon or on clothes, on all of these things. And then I asked her, it's not about shame. It's like, do you need to? Do you need that money? So when we talked about clothes, she's like, I'm building my professional wardrobe. So that's important to her. So that was a really important fact. So what are some of the other ways you can cut back or account for some of these other issues? So understanding where your money is going, and there's lots of different methods, as you can see here, but figuring out a way to track your spending. And right now, you are probably in paying for one of the most expensive things you will ever do in your life is your education. But there are other things that you're going to spend money on. Again, we've talked about housing, your cars, your family, where you live, depending. You're in a high cost area in DC, but you may move to even more higher cost of living or a lower cost of living. But these choices affect our spending. So being aware of that, and make sure you understand the consequences of getting that $50,000 car versus that $30,000 car, or buying new versus used, or buying versus leasing, and paying attention to those things. Doing your due diligence on your purchases. You're going to have to do due diligence as an attorney, but you should also do it for your own personal life. So I've mentioned investing a bit, but I want to stress it again. Having those automatic contributions to your 401k come right out of your paycheck. Dollar cost averaging rounds that money up. So basically you invest the same amount every month, week, however often you do it. And sometimes it'll buy more, sometimes it'll buy less. Making some plans for those of you with kids or plan to have kids. Maybe you start thinking about a 529 plan to pay for your kids' education, or some other way to pay for your kids' education now. And again, there's tons of fintech apps that can help you. Some you pay for, some are free, but it doesn't matter what you use. I'm going to stress the point that it has to be something that works for you. And then there is a method of investing that is financial independence, retire early. So that is a structured method. You can look it up on how to reduce all your debt and get independence and then retire early, if that's some method that might interest you. Okay, we're on the fourth habit, using outside counsel wisely, knowing when to use a pro. Just like if you're going to practice labor and employment law, if somebody comes to you with a criminal problem, you're probably not going to be the person who represents that person, right? You're going to make a referral. Sometimes you have to go outside. You know, we want to talk about when to use it and how to use it, what to look at. So many of you may be perfectly fine with doing all your investment work and savings work yourself, right? There are ways that you can do it. You can have online investing accounts. You can do it that way. You can use E-Trade. You know, there are apps that you can do it. It's all great. These are all DIY ways, you know, that you can take advantage of. And then as you want more help or more specialized help, you may be able to get a financial advisor. You may want to get somebody who specializes in estate planning. You may want to get somebody that really knows more about the ins and outs of all these things. You may have an insurance agent. So you want to think about that. You want to work, maybe you work with your bank in some investing opportunities. And then there are full service brokerage houses that will do everything for you, or independent financial planners, CFPs, certified financial planners. So it runs the gamut from doing it yourself at a very low cost, you get more back, to as you go up higher, you know, those fees are going to be more expensive, but you're also probably dealing with a lot more money. People always wonder what they should think about when they get a pro. There's a great website that is called brokercheck.finra.org where you can check out financial pros. And you want to think about these 4 C's. And think about it as an attorney too, right? Are they credible? What's their character? What's the cost? And what are their credentials, right? Think about it, credibility. How long has the person been practicing, right? How many years of experience do they have? What kind of credentials do they have? Are they a CPA? Are they a CFP? What are they doing and what do they specialize in? The cost, right? How much and how are you being charged for these services? How do they get paid? Do they get paid right up front? Do they get fees out of your account? How does it work? And then character. You know, I always talk about how when you're in law school, you look around at all these people that you are going to practice with or going to know in practice at some point, and the character of that person. And I can tell you, I guarantee that there is somebody in your class that you will say, I'm never going to make a referral to. And there's probably other people that you would absolutely make a referral to. And that's character, right? How did you find out about this person? Were they referred to you? But what do you know about them? And can you trust their judgment? When do you need to get help? You know, there are some things that you may be able to do yourself, like your taxes, but maybe more advanced tax planning and tax preparation, you may eventually need that. You may have other things. Maybe you have a business. Maybe you become a solo practitioner and that gets above your skill level. So knowing what you are able to do and what you can pay people to do and where you can get professional help. So there's opportunities out there to get help. Also, if you're in a financial bind and you're having problems, there are opportunities out there. You know, if you are having difficulty, there are free tax services like Vita. There's nonprofit credit counseling. There are food pantries out there that can help you. So understanding where you can get help. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have to be able to pivot, right? Having cash equals the optionality and the financial flexibility that we talked about, being able to do the things that you want to do. You also want to be able to balance your financial priorities. You may want to pay off debt, but you also may want to buy a house, right? Making sure you do those annual wellness checks, checking those numbers. And maybe you're way ahead on your debt payoff, so you can make adjustments on that goal to buy a house or goal to buy a property. And then having that financial flexibility will allow you to bounce back from those financial challenges. We have a great worksheet on our website that Ashley will give you a link to, where you can keep track of all of this. And it's an opportunity to really figure out where you are. We developed this because of COVID, because we were concerned that there were a lot of issues out there. So keeping track of all this, it's a fillable form if you want. But again, you can create your own method of keeping track of all this. So what did we talk about today? Monitoring your financial health, defending that cash flow, focusing on your financial systems, using outside counsel wisely, and pivoting when things change. I know it's a ton of information, and this is really just scratching the surface, but understanding these 5 habits really will help you meet and strategize for your financial goals. Don't forget your dashboard. This is another worksheet that we have on our website that you can fill out and keep track of it, something you can update on a regular basis. I'm going to stop right there before we start talking about Max and get you your scholarship information. Ash, any questions?
No questions. I just threw those 2 resource links in the chat panel. If you want to take a look at them, just click on them or copy and paste, and you can always download them at a later time. You will have to log into your Ask Edna account to see them.
Great. So I will ask everybody to put in the chat panel, if you want to share, what's the one thing that you are going to do after this workshop? Are you going to monitor your budget or create a budget? Are you going to look at areas that you can save? Are you going to create an emergency fund? Maybe you're going to schedule a one-on-one coaching session. So there are quite a few things, but tell me what you're going to do after this session. And while you do that, while we get those in the chat panel, I'm going to tell you about Max. So we have in our Max platform, which again is in the Ask Edna educational network, we have courses on financial wellness and personal finance. We have events like today, and we have free one-on-one coaching where you can sit down with one of us. We're all accredited financial counselors and say, this is what I want to talk about. I've given you some examples of what people talk to us about: student loan repayment, credit, budgeting, investing. So there's lots of things that you can talk about, and they're all free. You can make as many appointments as you want. Ashley and I work with students on a regular basis, and they can be recurring appointments. We have a blog and Max monthly topics. Last month it was investing. This month it's career finances. And then for learning about personal finance, we have scholarships available. So depending on what year you are, we have courses dedicated to you. So within each course level, if you're a 1L, 2L, or 3L, we have 8 lessons. For example, this is the 3L lesson. For every lesson that you do within your class level, so 1Ls have to do 1Ls, 2Ls, 2Ls, and 3Ls, 3Ls. You do all 8 lessons. For every one of these lessons that you complete, you get a scholarship entry. For every event you attend, including today, you get a scholarship entry. So by doing those 2 things, you can earn entries into our scholarship drawings. We also have the coaching. So by attending today's event and any other Max events and completing your courses, you can get opportunities to win. And our first scholarship drawing is less than a month away. So if you complete all 8 lessons and go to 2 events, that'll give you 10 points. And if you complete it in that way, for our April drawing, you'll get 10 bonus points. So complete your class level lessons, all 8, attend 2 events, including today. And in April, you'll get 10 bonus entries. Otherwise, in November and February, we do 2 $5,000 scholarship drawings per class. So you're competing with everybody in the 1L, 2L, or 3L class for scholarship entries. And this is, we partner with over 170 law students. So the more entries you have, the more opportunities you have to win. And then in April, our grand prize drawing, we have $25,000 scholarships and $40,000 scholarships, all for learning about personal finance for free. So if you haven't done it yet, go to askedna.accesslex.org and create your account. If you're new, 1Ls, you want to register. If you are on our old Max platform, you will go here and try to sign in and say, forget your password. Your information has already been loaded, but you can create a new password. If you've never been on, you want to register. But if you have been on the Max platform, you want to just say you have forgotten your password. Once you get in, you're going to see these four tiles. You're going to see our student success module, which is available to you. Actually, all four modules are available to you. Student success talks about law school success. Bar success, if you're interested in that, is available to you. And then the Max platform. So this is where I want you to go today, to the Max tile. Then you'll be on the Max page. If you're looking for those lessons we talked about, you're going to go to the Get Started place. If you want to schedule time with a coach, you're going to click on here. Today, what I want you to do is click on Attend a Live Event. Then you're going to click the scholarship entry code bar. And Ashley's already put the direct link into the chat panel. So that's going to take you to the next page. Today is the 5 habits of financially successful lawyers. You're going to click that on and you're going to come to the next test that says begin, or next page that says begin the test. And that's the link that Ashley put in. Click that in. Today's secret code is systems. It is not case sensitive. Okay. You can use if you're logged in, you can use Ashley's link that she put in the chat panel and type in systems. You're going to click submit. You'll know right away that you got your scholarship entry. And because we like feedback on our webinars, I encourage you to take 2 minutes and complete the survey, because we will give out 10 $25 Amazon gift cards per month. So who doesn't like an Amazon gift card? You can also schedule a coaching call or another event through this link. So the last thing I want to mention is that if you're a 2L or 3L and you're interested in promoting Max and other AccessLex tools, you can be an AccessLex champion. You can earn up to $590 in gift cards. You can also earn a free Helix Bar Review course. So if you want to do that, go to accesslex.org/AccessLex champions, AccessLex-champions, and attend a free workshop. If you attend a free workshop this month, you automatically get a $15 gift card just for attending an information session. So I want to thank everybody, and I want to ask Ashley what people have said that they are going to do after this session.
Okay, so we have build their dashboard, look up their credit score, ! Look for more government programs they may qualify for, but I'm not utilizing yet. Look into more scholarships to help pay for school, which prompted me to put the Scholarship Data Bank link in the chat panel. We do have a great resource. It has nearly 800 scholarships in there that have been awarded to law students in the last couple of years. So take a look at it. And that's it.
Excellent. Does anybody need us to go through the scholarship entry again? Just raise your hand. I want to make sure you get at least one scholarship entry code.
I'm not seeing anything.
Oh, I saw a couple hands. All right. So Ashley, can you put the link in? If you're logged into Ask Edna, you can go directly to the link that Ashley puts into the chat panel. If not, when you're logged in, you can go to let me go here. You're going to go into Max. Once you log in, then you're going to hit attend a live online event, then click on the scholarship entry code. Today's session is 5 Habits of Financially Successful Lawyers. You're going to click that on. It's going to take you to another page where you want to click Begin the Test. That's where the link that Ashley provided is. And then you're going to type in systems. Once you enter systems, not case sensitive, you want to submit it, and you'll know right away that you passed.
I'm getting some thank yous here. Thanks, Jen.
Great. It was a pleasure talking to you all, and I will stay on as long as we need to make sure you get your scholarship entries.
I was going to say, chime in real quick. Jen knows I do this. We actually have had a winner. It's been a few years, so I would love to have a brand new winner. So make sure you do enter, because it really does make a difference. So
I always forget that, Megan. I'm glad you reminded me. You're the institutional knowledge.
I know. That's why I'm never allowed to leave.
That's right.
So I'm still here. And for anybody who's still on, this is recorded. If you found it super fascinating, you want to watch it again, it's going to be on the Dean of Students Office Wellness page. If you also found it super fascinating and you want to share it with your friends, so then they can watch it, they can also get their wellness credit as part of our Wellness Week programming. So thank you, Jen and Ash. It was a great session. I got my notes. I might not be a law student, but I always learn something and take good notes while I sit here and listen. So thank you so much.
We certainly appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a very good evening.
Thank you, Megan, for hosting. Thank you, Jen, for your great presentation as always. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. You are very welcome. I am speaking for both myself and Jen that we absolutely love talking with all of you. We like helping you. We want to make sure that you are primed for success when you leave law school. So take advantage of our resources. And with that, I will say have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to seeing you again whether it's another session or during a coaching call. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.